Welcome back to another episode of the Infinite Jurisdiction Podcast. It's your host, Gonzalo Gonzalez, and we're back for another weekly recap of my 3-year journey through law school. So let's begin with our more local, more personal catch up, just what I've been doing this week. Last weekend, I'll start then because that's the most recent personal thing. My friends took me to like a club, and I might have mentioned on this podcast that I'm rather introverted and the social scene is not really my scene. I enjoy just being mostly in quiet, isolated places. And enjoy myself very much doing that. But we went to the club and it was enjoyable. It was an enjoyable experience. Perhaps it's because it was a fairly isolated, not isolated. What would I say? I knew that it would just be this one time, and I haven't had to do something that pro-social in a while, so maybe that's why I enjoyed it. Maybe even as introverted as I am, you kind of need these events every couple of months, and it isn't too emotionally draining to do that. But I did enjoy it. I went out with my old friends from high school, and it was good to catch up. And I had a lot of fun. And this might start a trend where I might have to do that. And it's probably good psychologically to have this plan for every few months. It's probably also a good de-stressor. But we'll see if I have time for it. Anyways, moving out of the personal stuff, moving to the law school, what's happening locally in that respect. So school started. That's fun. One quickly forgets the intensity that comes with being in law school. Just in every sense of the word intense. Just the reading, the thought that goes into understanding all this stuff, the outlining, the scheduling, the time management, all that stuff just snowballs into this big intense situation that you're placed in. And I completely forgot about kind of like the revs that you have to operate during this time of the school year. So that was it was a nice punch in the face to get us back into school and feeling like that. But I'm managing, and I think there's a bit more relaxation because I already went through 1 year of this, so I know I'm definitely capable of operating this way for months at end. So that helps for sure. Second, we moved to just law school's perspectives and advice that I would give to future or incoming or present students. My observation this week has been, as I was thinking about all that goes into being successful academically as school has started, I've been thinking a lot about just how individuated one's plan has to be. I assume the very good students have already worked out what works best for them academically in undergrad, and so that's just what they're doing in law school is just recapitulation or a continuation of those practices. They might have to make a few tweaks because the law school experience is different than undergrad, but I would say for students who weren't that good in undergrad, such as myself, there is this initial period of uh, going to law school, going through your first set of exams, and getting uh, just slapped in the face to your what you think was a lot of studying or practice. Um, and in reaction to that quote unquote failure, you make adjustments, and it's just that um, synthesis, antithesis, um, dialogue where eventually you've created this plan for yourself where you understand what it takes to be operating at a high level in law school. Um, so, um, part of creating that system is just becoming closer and closer to what you specifically find out that works best for you. And this can become very detailed and very idiosyncratic very quickly, but it's a necessary and tedious task for yourself. Just, okay, let me experiment with flashcards. Okay, that doesn't work. Let me experiment with writing the rule out on a whiteboard. What do I need to practice orally communicating the legal principles to someone who's a layman, and that will help. And that's just substantively. I don't know what plans you have to make for what works best for you in terms of time management. Do you need a digital planner, or do you need a physical planner? Can you do everything on Office Outlook or Google Calendar? Or do you need the calendars in front of you? Do you even need calendars, or are you just putting post-its everywhere? All of these things you're going to have to figure out, and it's going to be very tedious at times because there's seemingly so many ways to go about doing this. I'm sure if you just sampled 5 people from one of my classes and asked them how they're going to study for an upcoming midterm, I'm sure you're going to come with 5 different ways to go about that are not only different, but they're fundamentally different in approach. Some people, all they need to do is sit down and conceptualize and think through the legal principles. Some people really have to work through physically writing out exams. Some people are just going to memorize rules. But there's such unique approaches to solving the same problem that is a law school exam, and you're going to have to identify specifically what it is that's optimal for your learning. So start as quickly as possible. So if you're incoming 1L and you haven't figured out what works best for you and what practices are specifically engineered for to facilitate learning for you, I would get on that. Just take notes, see what works, see what doesn't work, go online, experiment on different pedagogical techniques, and arrive at your own plan, because it's not only a plan that you're going to have to apply in law school, but eventually when you're a lawyer, no one's going to be there trying to hold your hand. You should be able to work out how to go about learning there too, and it should have been already built in law school. So that's my advice. Thinking more philosophically, moving to our last segment, I've been thinking a lot about how one spends their time, and if they feel that you've done so productively, or was it valuably spent. if you feel like you're wasting some time, and I haven't yet identified like the balancing test, um, uh, to identify what is valuable time spent and what's not valuable. And that's a critical test that you need to identify, because we're so busy in law school. You need to be able to find out where you're wasting time and cut that from your plan, from your day to day. And I'm not talking about obvious time wasting things, like just watching TikTok all day, or watching YouTube videos all day, or listening to music, just laying in bed, stuff like that. I'm talking mostly about like legitimately difficult balancing test of every Saturday I go play basketball at the local park. Is that a not valuable expenditure of my time? I love basketball. I think it's good physically for me. It's also a distressor. But do I really need it? Is there a compromise that I'll have to strike? Compromise that I'll have to make to to get the most out of my waking hours. And I'm still dealing with these not trivial, but they make you stop and think whether this is worth my time or not in the long run. And I'm like a single guy without any legitimate responsibilities like toward friends or families. I'll obviously have the role as brother, son, cousin, whatever, and I fulfill those duties. But I'm talking like I don't have anyone that's dependent on me. I don't have any kids. I don't have major responsibilities that if I did, I would have to be making very difficult questions about where my time should be going. And as I mentioned, I don't have these major responsibilities, but I want to begin now kind of creating or identifying the tests that helps me pick out what's valuable and what's not valuable for me to spend time on, because at some future point in my life I will have those major responsibilities, and I will be in need of that test and factors to consider in what needs to be cut out and what doesn't. At some point when you have kids, a large portion of your time is going to be cut out for them. And where does that portion of time get cut out of? Is it some other obligation that you previously had? Is it some recreational, fun activity that you could no longer do because you should go to your kids? Should it be cut out of your work schedule? So these are all questions in the back of my mind as of late, and I'm just trying to identify that test and factors for that test to help me settle these issues of identifying what's valuable and not valuable. And in difficult circumstances where there are two very valuable but competing interests, how do I settle between the two? And I haven't found anything on that. I'll be curious to think how other people go about thinking about these kinds of compromises in terms of where you spend your time. Yeah, that's it for the philosophy portion. and I guess for this podcast as well. So that was the weekly update. I'll see you guys next week, and thank you for watching. Bye.